Etiefo, me churchia ubia.
Me say me mahala bi e ka se me kira me say e bra na ye ku school no e na me mahala no say ade bia wo Quran mu even say na si tum brodo.
So today's topic is let's question the man-made hadith, right? Why do people rely on hadith? Why do they like to follow hadith? And you
I don't me say na omo de abranche bi edi nkomo o say ono ye Quranist o say Quran no is sufficient. Now, hadith is not necessary. Or you should the word garbage in I don't want to even go there. It's only say the Quran is sufficient for us. We don't need the hadith. I think that was Baba then. We don't need the hadith. We don't need anything to tell us what to do. Blah blah blah. I don't so yeah. Fede. Unless yes, a fanyana. Fees a scholar bia.
You hear people saying, "Hey, how can you practice Islam without a hadith? How can you do your salat without a hadith? How can you do this, do that without the hadith?"
Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, obey the saying. Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, obey the saying. And never your Islam, and your hadith, obey the
hadith. How can you do this, do that without the hadith? Then they will go further ahead to blaspheme against God and tell you without the hadith, we cannot understand the Quran.
Without the hadith, without what the Prophet told us, how would you be able to fully understand the Quran? The Quran is self-sufficient, but how will you be able to understand it without the hadith?
So which means God is not competent enough to explain his own book. That is the mindset of an hadith follower. The mindset of an hadith follower is to tell you that the Quran is useless without the hadith. If you hear any sectarians, there's no logic in this. You understand? So mostly you hear this from the scholars, from the ignorant ones among the sectarians. They all say the same thing, right?
Directly or indirectly is coming from Allah.
Top hadith which are classified as Sahih. Sahih means authentic, which is right to be used, right? So who classified it? Their own scholars. It wasn't the Prophet. Wallahi lazim, the Prophet himself never classified any single hadith on earth as Sahih.
The hadith, directly or indirectly, is coming from Allah.
I wonder if we have any Quranic verse which is called Sahih. We don't have Sahih in this Quran. It's only the man-made words which they try to give certification to it and say Sahih, and some they classify as Da'if, and you still find it in the books they have, right? So logic is not playing a role in the mainstream section of the Muslims. Zuzani san, and they use chapter 3 verse 31 where he says in kuntum tuhibuna Allah fattabi'uni. That is, if you should love God, then follow me. They keep using all this.
Allah. It is Quran no is from Allah. Wa ati'u rasul. Any dia commissioning ba kachira mo fanya aduma. Commissioning so na sem ni Quran mu. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam na sem en ni Quran mu. Commissioning Muhammad na sem wa him fa wa hadith mu. And without the Quran, without the hadith, without what the Prophet told us, how would you be able to fully understand the Quran? The Quran is self-sufficient, but how will you be able to understand it?
That is, if you should love God, then follow me. They keep using all these verses out of context. They leave the siyak out. Always check the siyak also to fit the verse. Check the context of the verse to fit the verse. It's only when you cannot find an answer to a context in the verse you are reading or verses you are reading, that is when you move to another chapter. You don't move to another book to go and find answers. Just like the sectarians will tell you, you need asbabun nuzul to understand the Quran. The last time I checked, there is no one single statement where God says there is something called sababun nuzul or asbabun nuzul. It doesn't exist in the Quran. These are the doctrines of the man-made hadith. Doctrines of the man-made hadith. Right? Good. So
Quranist. I hope someone say on the program, and I love to have a dialogue with that guy. I love to have a dialogue with that guy. I love to have a dialogue with that guy.
2,000 years later.
Etie for me churchia ubia me churchia ubia. Any program we saying okay. I hope say a be really productive and educative. Okay, because we are having a guest. Yeah, we are going to. I have invited one personality and I said one brother. He himself, is a Muslim. Okay, and then this Muslim, he is one of a kind. And then he follows only the Quran. He says, in his mind, okay, nobody can guide you apart from Allah.
Will you be quiet?
Are you ready?
Etie for me churchia ubia, me churchia ubia.
Will you be quiet?
Let's get ready to rumble.
Are you ready to take calls? Because one malam is calling me.
Let him come in.
Okay. Etie for HAFIZ Buhari, okay? This is HAFIZ Buhari.
I love to have a dialogue with that guy.
Hello, Zeto.
Malam Sheikh HAFIZ Buhari.
That is I.
Yeah, Misha. Now swear.
Mecha Baba.
Okay, Baba Joso. Baba, now Baba Kwana Bechiano. Who just said to?
Oh, Mata, the minimum in Chebia.
Now, okay, HAFIZ Buhari. I think so. We program maybe to our friend and
Mr. Church for you now. Why?
now, okay, but me say your life is here. Me sure so we program meeting our friend and
Yeah. I make a question. Why?
okay.
That's the only thing I just say. Based on this calendar, who say Ramadan and Yakupo air cano, sa Busumi we and a fan Ramadan. Like I said, without the calendar, you will not be able to determine say we and a Ramadan and Yamekano. That's the only thing I just want to do.
I know what can say Arabian calendar. No. I know Arabian calendar. No.
Okay, whatever, Mati. Next question, Mr. Gusano. Me person on kind Quran chapter Surah to Juma ana or stress on no. On kind surah no. And in verse 2 on Chamasia. That's the only thing I need.
Okay, Surah to Juma, verse number 2.
Yeah, verse 2. Now on such Masia.
هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة وإن كانوا من قبل لفي ضلال مبين. He, God, He is the one who was raised or who was sent among the unlearned. Now, that word ummiyin, sectarians ne translating as illiterate, which is wrong. Omunye illiterates. Muhammad and Crawford omunye illiterates. But sectarians say illiterate. It's not illiterate. Unlearned here means someone who has never learned the scriptures of God. So what I say? Niba one onim about the book of God. I don't know your friend ummiyuna na ummi. So what I say? Among them, no, nyami esuma messenger. Meaning say twika me beka osma for another neka. Rasul minhum among them. It you translating as illiterate what Bojamaica see a big issue. They are not illiterates. And minhum among them reciting to them the verses of God. Into king kind verses, because that time na sending as messenger. Onu nim west into obetumi recite, and when it comes to recitation, and yes we kita book now recite too. E will team into recite. Then it says, وَيُزَكِّيهُمْ, and that's to vindicate them. When you vindicate somebody, it's like you are purifying them from something they did mistakenly. Ada why a mistake before. Nipanaba, yuzakkihum will vindicate you. Then it says, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, and to teach them the book.
Tobo, Baba, was a question if you was one to the all kinds of saying, okay, 5 seconds ago.
Or use a key him on a explanation. I say, on church, I say,
use a key him vindication, the proper meaning and vindication, but it's an act of purity. I will bet me a purify or be from that type of mistakes or in the past. Uti. Into yaka zakah, everywhere zakam. Sazakan yuzakihum is to purify somebody, but in this act is to vindicate somebody from the mistakes they did in the past. Right?
So yuzakihim wa yu'allimuhum al-kitaba wal hikmah, and to teach them the book and the wisdom. Wa in kanu min qablu la fi dalalin mubin. And they were
one after the other. In fact, but if I heard him correctly, also yuzakihim no. I don't know the meaning of the way of teachers. I say we next training you. But na oyuzakihim or you alimuhum al-kitab wal hikmah. And one is very, very important. I want to make just those three words. Me person church mami. Why?
Okay, Baba, nyabotre uzakihim. Honum lesa vindication. The okase vindication and purify. You know. Explain honum ye. Okay, you should different word. This will be another thing on the mabet me use a bit me man I click a crown because now
usually Quran chapter 62 verse 2 no? Wa yuzakihim wa yu'allimuhum al-kitaba wal hikmah. The sectarians usually translate the word zakim as purify, right? In that context.
Sectarians sectarian no.
Sectarians ne
sectarian no.
Hafiz what was that question? My answer. Who kasabia na woka kufa. Debia woka kufa.
So teaching them the book and the wisdom, al-hikmah, we can find it in the Quran chapter 17 verse 39. ذلك مما أوحى إليك ربك من الحكمة. Inti sa hikmah na ankasa ewa Quran. It is in the Quran itself. Although they were in clear error before, his people were in error before. So now this was the purpose of him being a messenger to them. So that is your answer.
Hafiz, what say?
Okay. It is a story. Remember the linear actions. The last one I'm going to say. Or say when he talks about the azan, or say azan and you say obey the exchange him. No, according to the understanding, because the word azan in Arabic, we know the meaning of the word.
Quran chapter 22 verse 27. God said in that verse, He says, "Wa'azzin fin nas bil hajj," or say, and announce among the people, or in the people, or to the people about the Hajj. Now, when we say about Hajj, Nyame use the word azin, which is to announce. That is the word. Maybe I word azan on free. Azan. Into azin ye announcement. Announcement. But about salat, there is no one single notion in the Quran where God ever used the word azin for salat. Instead, or use the word nudia. Now, sa nudia no, and I mean my example, Quran chapter 27 verse 8. Sa nudia na nyami yusu din frame Moses. And nyami anye dede am frame Moses. Moses ebeng, baby a oba no na nyami frame no Musa. Inti se o se nudia ni ye azana. Emfa na nyami kan azan efa salat. On boss azan wo. Inti azan ni frame fa. That is the point.
Hafiz, okay.
Okay, what the officer what can he say? But can he say the word nida ano? What does it mean nida ano? Extending in Arabic, the word nida extending.
It means to summon, to call somebody, to summon.
To call somebody. Okay, so say oh friend will be or you closer, and it's a friend will be or a because in Suratul Yusuf. Ebra ne bi Yusuf ni nuanom ba ye na omo kono. In Suratul Yusuf. Ebra ne bi Yusuf ni nuanom ba ye na omo kono.
I love to have a dialogue with that guy.
In Suratul Yusuf. Ebra ne bi Yusuf ni nuanom ba ye na omo kono.
I love to have a dialogue with that guy.
In Suratul Yusuf. Ebra ne bi Yusuf ni nuanom ba ye na omo kono. Nyankopon so de wani da. Eti ibusa se wo fro bi owo akira.
Onka verse. I
have been sure to use the fire ben our casa family.
Oh, Frobia or a trick, and it's a Frobia or Benwa. The way of big Tiamono, and I said, do you have a sermon, no better call, Ebeyet at the crop, and I said,
That was it. Surah to Yusuf. No, I have been very ben. I walk as a fan on checking here.
Oh, I guess let me check it. Oh, I guess let me check it.
I hope someone say on the program, and I love to have a dialogue with that guy.
Oh, I guess let me check it.
Me say me mahala bi e ka se me kire me say e bra na ye ku school no e na me mahala no say ade bia wo Quran mu even se na si tu brodo
Muazzin chapter 12 verse 17 no amu ye azan efre oma amu ka sa oma wi anyama no azan omu ye azan muazzin.
Okay. And one of the shout and answer saying, so I think HAFIZ for a person who say a shout.
And TBDB omu use azana. The azana ni announcement chapter 12 verse 17 no omu ye announcement and omu announce ye say obi wi ade. So what I say? Aha. Enti omu use azan. But about salat, Nyamia use azan for salat. On one verse where Nyamia use the word azan as salat count.
I hope someone say on the program, and I love to have a dialogue with that guy.
On one verse where Nyamia use the word azan as salat count. On one verse where Nyamia use the word azan as salat count. On one verse where Nyamia use the word azan as salat count.
Me say me mahala bi e ka se me kire me say e bra na ye ku school no e na me mahala no say ade bia wo Quran mu even se na si tu brodo
on one verse where Nyamia use the word azan as salat count
even se na si tu brodo
enti say ya ayu alazina amanu iza nudiya lis salati min yawm al jumu'ah iza nudiya enti sa word na say on ya say iza nudiya lis salat. What's the meaning of the word iza nudiya lis salat?
Set.
Yeah.
Set Machira say that.
What should I say? Yeah.
On show video no. On show video no later. My next column, bro.
What should I say? HAFIZ, but it has to me. I think what can it be for? Okay.
What should I say? Saying.
Yeah. What should I say? Was it because before me Busan the same question. They say, "Sir, Salatu Juma," and I say, "Yomi Juma." No, it didn't difference. Me saying, and or explaining a video inside already. Okay.
Juma na me count. Me say. Iza nudiya li salati nudiya li enye juma sana meka nudiya li salati ya fremo se mba ya salla e hona me pesa o kire mu man nudiya li salati na say anything
when you are called.
What when you are called?
To what?
Yes, when our congregation was it because there was a congregation. Was this a Juma? We said it was about a congregation. I'm
not talking about Juma. I'm talking about nudiya li salat. I'm not talking about Juma.
Quran chapter 62 verse 9. I know quoting. Chapter 62 9. Yami say ya ayu allazina amanu iza nudiya lis salat min yawmil jumu'ah. Oh, you who believe, when called to the salat from the day of congregation, when called into where no ye framework. Sa freya no nudiya nana nyame yusuma Moses. Quran chapter 27 verse 8. Nudia and into called.
My last question now. Reaction on this. Last question. Say, Nudia no, or no, say, and yet they are team from Crofona, but then or different way. Say, and yet didn't I know. Nudia no, or no, I can say when you are called. Now, you say when you are in a community no any that's all fra so now can say yema agide for no. If say yema agide for that, then what is the essence of calling them? Because yema agide for say obi abba converge at that time. Why do you have to call them still? Etu de mami fancy yami adu my baba reaction wise.
Okay, assalamu alaikum. Okay, yeah.
What the caller did was he wanted to put the notion of the azan they are doing. So the Arabic instant doesn't have the word azan there. It doesn't have azin or azan there. The word says nudia, and the nudia is the same instance God used to call Moses. So the question is, when God was calling Moses, did he shout to call Moses? The answer is no. God never shouted to call Moses.
But what was the answer now, Oma? And because say yeah, say circumstances no said the people now are more far away now. You want to call them now, you have to shout.
They are not far away. They are not far away. Listen, the day is a day of congregation. The America before on TU. A congregation, I may be say me in the group of people. Now maybe from my idea. Do I need to shout again to call somebody far away?
But this time, you know, the people are far away. It's almost from and they have to shout.
Say this time, if they are believers, anytime we cast sectarians on TSN, if they are believers, believe on Yamyama time that. Say to me, Europe, your appointments are Aji Fa Mike Efrel.
It's up, Debbie.
You know,
okay. Yeah, but about one friend has say okay. For last call, we say that because me so many time as soon has say okay. Obi busa question you has say okay. Your boss back CSF for boss me busa question say. What did you say the miracles of Prophet Muhammad said, including say a meat spoke to Muhammad.
Everybody say I am present. The meat spoke to the prophet.
Hadith say tin.
Time I know.
Hey, Enka, Mr. Mebakura Bedran, Enka. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. Anyway, the Omokasi Wakomandi Diama Diana Nina is a lie. The Muhammad doesn't have that power to do that. It doesn't exist in the Quran. No.
Oh, okay.
Okay, what time I come back?
Hadith say tin.
Okay, can be I'm support or okay. Now we use our platforms. We say Nina I'm support. No more famboa. Okay, Mr. Ma, and the good screen is no. Chip CSF, a guanum, Sankofano, Quariguanum, Seto SSK guanum.
Go to here on the video, all the verses of quote to a misquotation. All the verses he quoted were quoting out of context. I am Crawford commissioning your workers. Mr. Mahalan be a Casim, me say, a brand new school. And I Malan say, I did be a Quran, even send a seat to Brudu. Send Brudu.
And a skeptic Jabani, and so the big screen next time. Okay, Mr. Ma. Seto SSK, it's here for Mr. Seto SSK, it's here for